In this video, guys, we're going to look at signal or trigger candle. What's the difference? Stay tuned. Hey guys, warm welcome to you. Thanks so much for joining me. Something I think it was Al Brooks or Linda Rashke said, which is, hey, there's a difference between the signal and the trigger, and it's very, very useful. By the way, go and check out those guys, Al Brooks and Linda Rashke. It's well worth looking at. I'm not someone who's going to say, hey, you shouldn't listen to me. I think we learn from everybody, guys. There's some really useful, good traders that were sharing their knowledge out there. Seasoned professionals doing very, very well. Just grab a little bit of what's valuable from each of the others. You know, I just want you to become a better trader. If you get value from me, great. If you get value from those guys, that's great. And signal or trigger. Is it a trigger candle or is it a signal candle? There's a distinct difference. So what does that actually mean? So you think about what's happening in the market. Market's coming on, chugging along. Something happens and we see that as a bright light, if you like, a signal that says, oh, something's changed. Something's changed here. And that is what we call our signal candle. And then we have something which is a trigger candle. So you're saying, well, isn't it the same? This is where it gets interesting. Because I think many traders fall into the trap of using the signal candle as a trigger candle. Let me explain what I mean. So imagine if you had a good rally to the upside and you had a pull back and you're looking to get long. Maybe this wick here would be your signal candle. Okay, let's just put an S, right? But maybe it's not quite enough. It's a signal that says sentiment's changed a little bit here. Maybe it's a daily chart. Oh, we had a pull to lows and we kind of close, and it's not perfect because it's a red candle still, but it's just suggesting sentiment might shift. You might not want to take a trade on that, but it's a signal that goes, hey, listen, look, something's changed. Supply demand's changed here. Look closely, this might be a trade. And so it's that signal candle, but differentiating it from the trigger candle, because your trigger candle still has to occur for you to pull the trigger in the trade. An example might be, hey, you get a big solid green the day after. You're like, okay, that was the signal that suggested that we were changing, sentiment was changing, wasn't quite perfectly clear, but the next candle was a trigger candle. I'm taking that on the close of that. There was my trigger. Maybe you take it on the break of the high if you're going to be more aggressive. And so it's that distinct separation between the signal and the trigger that helps you just wait a bit. Now, okay, some trades that trigger candle is going to be the signal candle. If you're trading aggressive exhaustion intraday and it's flushing through lows and you see it just backing off 20 ticks or something, that's mid candle. That might be enough for you to just get long. Because okay, I just want to get long. It's just, I want to get in it. But very often the structure of the trade isn't yet formed until you get the trigger, the confirmation. I don't like using the word confirmation because very often confirmation is too late. But sometimes the trade warrants that. Sometimes you want to see that. Sometimes you want to see a little clue and then you want to see something happening. You know, an example might be, another one might be, let's imagine, you know, the market's kind of sitting in a range, it breaks through, pushes back up. You know, that might be one candle there. That might be a signal candle. You might, yeah, but I just want to see what happens when it tests again. Maybe then your trigger candle is one that holds and just holds at that level. And you go, okay, that's my trigger candle. Or maybe you say, hey, I'm going to wait until it breaks out, pulls back, and then retest the high. And maybe your trigger candle is there, and your signal candle was this. Or maybe, you know, there's all sorts of concepts that you can bolt together and go signal, trigger. And this is something if you're a little bit quick into trades, if you're a little bit urgent at pulling the trigger, a little bit gun-ho, you can maybe split up your setups a little bit and go, right, what's the signal? And it might be a sequence of candles, a series of candles, or a series of something that's going on price action, maybe use a volume, or you're an indicator bolting into it and going, okay, that's my signal. Right, now I have my trigger. Because if you think about a classic oversold stochastic, you wouldn't necessarily just buy an oversold stochastic. But if you had that as a signal, I'm using indicator here and a candle to kind of prove the point or illustrate the point, you might have an oversold stochastic, and then you might get a really strong, big, green, solid bar that closes at highs. That's your trigger. Because you wouldn't just take an oversold stochastic, but it's there, it's a signal, it's a signal, it's a signal, and then you get a trigger. So that's kind of thinking about it in terms of an indicator first and then price. I'm pure price action. I just really get a better read when I'm just looking at those candles and the structure of price and how it moves and how it responds to things and all this type of stuff. But something to consider if you're just trying to refine your craft a little bit more hey, just think of things slightly differently and say, hey, there's your signal candle and there's your trigger, and you don't take the trade if you don't get your trigger. You might get your signal, but you need that one part of the last piece of the puzzle to pull the trigger and to allocate the risk capital. If you don't, you step aside. And that might stop you from just going in every signal, and you're constantly getting stopped out. So it looks like it's a great trade. You just need one more piece of the puzzle just to confirm. It's not always going to be the case, but maybe it's going to help you. Maybe you go, okay, just pumping the brakes a little bit, waiting for one more candle to form. It's just better because I can just see cleaner setup, crisper risk-reward ratio, stops much more structured, trade structured, targets more obvious. It's just cleaner altogether. So maybe that's something to consider. All right, guys, take care. Signal or trigger? Signal or trigger? What's the difference? It's not really that much of a tongue twister, is it? Take care. Keep risk managed. Bye-bye.